I'm gonna talk about sucking down monster bull testicles, and we're gonna start right now. Okay, so we've been getting destroyed with people who want us to analyze and respond to the Liver King. And so who is the Liver King? The Liver King is Brian Johnson. And no, not Brian Johnson, the lead singer for AC/DC, but Brian Johnson, the Liver King. And so some of the stuff that we have to look through is when we're thinking about the Liver King, I think, one, he's clearly full throttle. He's full steam ahead. He's trying to pursue, and I have his website up here, and it's like getting strength and happiness back into society. So he seems as though he's putting out a pretty good, wholesome message. And he's also talking about important things behind eating well. And I think, you know, he has these, 9 tenets of ancestral living. And I think right away, my first call out would be, he probably read Nutrition and Physical Degeneration from Weston A. Price and has just completely taken all this and now is applying it directly into internet business and online business. So he's doing a really good job taking somebody else's content. But, you know, Weston A. Price was from the early 1900s. He was a dentist that went around and studied Aborigines, the Inuit, the Lochental Valley in Switzerland. He studied even Seminole graves and just looked at what these ancestral people, what they ate and how they would consume things like organ meats to get higher amounts of vitamins like vitamin K2, MK7, stuff like that. So I wanted to go into, and while we're analyzing Liver King, just thinking through his tenets when we're responding to some of his different posts on Instagram. I think that's important. So I don't think that it's overly complicated. I think he just does a really good job packaging, and his physique is absolutely phenomenal. So he talks about the first key tenet is sleep, and it trumps everything else. And you know, going on and getting a ton of sleep is extremely important. It's extremely important for us to get good sleep, and I think that's a great message. He goes, the next big thing is going to be eating. I don't know why eating is an ancestral tenet, but it is. I think for me, it's just like a survival tenet, not necessarily an ancestral thing. If we don't eat, we're going to die. I think one question I do have is, from that ancestral mindset, is that what defines ancestral? You know, for me, it could be so I'm Dutch, of Dutch descent, and so 4 or 5 generations prior to me, that would be my ancestors. But it could also be, 20 generations prior. So I think sort of defining ancestors, or are we talking about literally like people who, like 2,000-3,000 years prior? I think that's like one thing that we have to discuss. So he does talk about, in eating, is essentially eating entire animals, nose to tail, horns to hooves. I think that's pretty commonplace for most ancestral tribes. There are ancestral tribes that were actually vegetarian. There's a couple out there that have existed, but for the most part, we have evolved eating large amounts of meat, eating large amounts of fruits and vegetables, some grains here and there, and then, removing things like seed oils, I think is a pretty decent concept that he has. And then he gets into moving, and moving is essentially fitness-based exercise, making sure that you walk, possibly getting naps, stuff like that. I think this is pretty normal concepts, right? That's pretty normal. Here's where we start to get into some interesting stuff. So shield.
Shield is the 4th ancestral tenet. We must shield our family and protect them.
To avoid dangers. I think this is where it gets a little bit, just a little bit of like tribal, trying to put this in like a nice person way. It's just like, I think we have to be weary when it comes down to like join my tribe and shield, but it just reminds me of like this weird feeling of like follow me, which maybe that's part of it, right? Is trying to get people that really just want to dive deep into his teaching. So one of the things with shielding is don't disrupt your hormones. Don't disrupt your hormones. Okay. Metabolism and ability to get deep sleep. Great. You want to get 20-25% REM sleep. I think that's great. Avoid seed oils, fluoride, excessive Wi-Fi, EMFs, mercury fillings, perfumes, and plastics. That plastics part's interesting because I've seen in some of his videos he's surrounded by plastics, but I would also want to know if he has mercury fillings, because odds are he does. And if he does have them, has he gotten them removed? Weston A. Price Foundation has actually had doctors that are certified in proper ways to remove mercury fillings, but I'm interested to see what that response would be in regard to that specifically. Now we're getting into connect. Okay, so connect. So we're about halfway through here. Connect. This is our early ancestors were in constant contact with the earth. So I think this is like, who was the dude? It was like David Avocado Wolf was like the big guy who had like the grounding pads. I don't think Avocado was like his real name. It was like his he gave it to himself, middle name. So David Wolf, and there was another dude who used to sell colostrum up in Maine. Those guys were big into like grounding stuff, grounding beds, and what that can do for an anti-inflammatory effect against EMF. I think some of that stuff you can use a voltmeter and actually just, I could show you on a voltmeter if I go on a grounding pad and I'm right next to my computer and then I remove the grounding pad, what happens? Okay, so some of that I think does have some substance behind it. I think it's overblown to a point. Now, cold is the next one. Comfort is not good for the organism. This is why the 6th ancestral tenet is get cold. What about the ancestors that lived at the equator? They probably didn't get cold. So that would be one of my big questions. It just depends on where people are from, but I do think, there's some credence to being cold and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that's like a classic thing. Sun's a great aspect where, you go out and this is the 7th tenet, you would go out and when the sun hits your eyes, and if you do this during the day consistently throughout your entire, let's say in a week, every morning you go out and you get sun when the sun first comes up for 3 to 4 hours, it helps you really get a good circadian rhythm established. This is good. There's a lot of research on this. Now, the one thing here is he talks about the 7th ancestral tenet is sun because our early ancestors didn't brush, they didn't floss, and they didn't get cavities. So he relates the sun to teeth. That's interesting. Maybe because of vitamin D. Okay, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin A. But I'm pretty sure they did floss. And I'm pretty sure Weston A. Price actually talks about them flossing and using large pieces of bark, like specific types of trees with specific types of bark that they would actually use to clean some of their teeth from time to time. So I don't think that's actually accurate. He also talks about MK4, which I've always thought with vitamin K, it was MK7 that we would want to get, not MK4. I think MK4 is also beneficial. So that's interesting. Fight.
Ancestral number 8, we want to fight, we want to scrap.
Okay, so our ancestors evolved fighting, hunting, protecting, struggling, persevering, winning. And when we win, we get rewarded with a big boost of dopamine. Okay, I agree. I think, some people's first response is fight, like fist fights and stuff like that. I think he's more so just talking about pushing ourselves and enjoying, and for me, in a hokey, progressive mindset, it'd be like, win the day type hokey stuff where it's like, you set your goals and you actually follow through with your goals. You work as hard as you can to achieve those goals. You talk about those goals with your spouse and your family, and you teach your kids to be responsible and fight for what they believe is right. I think that is important. I think that's something that we could all have, like that inner fire to take over, and he points that out. It's just, establishing, to me, that's more like, dude, what's your vision? I think that's a better way is, what is your vision? Do you want to be really good at something? Well, if you want to be really good, you have to know what that vision is. You have to have a clear mindset, and you have to steamroll everything. I don't need to join a tribe to do that, but maybe some people do because they're weak-minded followers that can't actually push themselves, and they'd rather just join a weird group of people that follow ancestral tenets. Bond. The 9th ancestral tenet is bond because since the inception of our species, we belong to a far greater purpose. Yes, a far greater purpose. Society, similar to Christ, dishing out fish to thousands and thousands of people, having, just handing things out, bonding, right? Yeah, exactly. Bonding to a far greater purpose. You'd be hard pressed to find things more primal than that of purpose itself. Purpose was guarding the perimeter from danger to protect one's tribe. So it's interesting. It's like the bond part here, it's almost like socialism to me. That's how the feeling I'm getting is like, it's like we're in this socialist community, almost like the Amish. We're in this like big socialist communist community, and you all come in and join my tribe, and we'll protect one another, and we'll all be happy, hunky-dory people that lift and go out and don't brush our teeth and eat bone marrow. I like bone marrow. I like bone broth. That's cool. I think it is important to bond with people. I do think that for sure. As abrasive as I might come off to some people, it is fun to have relationships. It's fun to have experiences. It's fun to do all these things. So those are those 9 tenets. That's how we've got to look through all these videos, where he establishes and rolls through those key tenets and how he lives and rolls through everything.
Nutrient-dense raw beef liver. Best thing to eat after you work out.
Nutrient dense raw beef liver, best thing to eat after workout. This is funny because this is like my first group of like really good savages at Garage Strength. We used to make raw liver shakes where we would put tomato juice, cayenne pepper, lemon, and a little bit of mint into a shake with raw liver, and we would mix it up and actually drink it like basically like a V8 tomato juice or a V8 liver shake. So I would just say in that regard, like make sure that if you're gonna eat raw beef liver, like dude, make sure, I would say get it from like a grass-fed farm, get it from a farmer that you know. My brother is a farmer, actually one of the guys on staff here at Garage Strength, his parents are also grass-fed farmers. So I would say if you're gonna eat raw beef, make sure you get it from a high quality source. Otherwise I wouldn't touch it. I would not even think about touching it.
The second ancestral tenet is eat, because we evolved eating the whole animal, nose to tail, horns to hooves. But in the modern world, we choose processed foods and muscle meats over the most nutrient-dense parts like...
Okay, so in the modern world, we choose muscle meats and processed foods. Okay, so I think it's important that when we're studying these, think about indigenous people in the Americas, slaying a buffalo, right? The first thing they would eat, and oftentimes they wouldn't touch the liver with their bare hands because it was a sacred thing, it was a religious experience. They would actually use sticks oftentimes, and they would eat the liver first. So they would eat the liver first, they would eat the eyeballs, they would eat, heart. Heart sort of tastes like roast beef almost. They would eat those organs for sure. They would still eat the muscle meat though. They would eat the muscle meat. They wouldn't leave that to go. So that's one thing that I find strange is he says eat the whole animal, but then just basically is focusing on the organs. Well, if you're eating horn to hoofs, you're gonna eat the muscle meat as well. So I think that does have to be brought up.
And bone marrow. The foods we evolved with for millions of years.
Bone marrow is so good, by the way. It is
that
good.
Our biology expects today to heal and be healthy. So ditch the processed foods, the seed oils, and the liquid calories, and start incorporating primal fare like liver, heart, whole foods, bone marrow, and bone broth into your diet to express the leanest, strongest, healthiest version of you.
We used to call bone broth boner broth. It's so high in glycine you'd sleep really, really well. And if you're male, you can understand what would happen. Okay, so apparently part of the ancestral life is having a sick Ford truck that's probably $80,000 and putting chains around your neck because this is a sweet vehicle. That's the thing, dude. This guy is an absolute savage. One thing I'm going to point out is, dude, he's a beast. He's a total machine. And I think the eating he's promoting is good, high quality food and recovering really, really well from workout to workout and making sure you're getting good sleep, making sure you're spending time with your family. Dude, this stuff's really, really good. It's good. Now, he does say don't disrupt your hormones. He's clearly full throttle, full gas, on the sauce, 100%. Probably on, I don't know, he's so lean, he's probably on like oxandrolone, so Anavar. He's probably taking Proviron to harden himself up when he's doing some of these shoots. A ton of tests, I would assume, and maybe throw in some D-ball or some, I don't know. I'm not the best. I would go check out NPMD's response to this. I didn't watch it, but he probably talks about more of the sauce that he's on. So even though he is on the gas and he's sort of disrupting his hormones in that regard, which is against his one tenet, he is a total machine, and I think that has to be observed. Now, one thing he does point out too here, now he gets into what he eats on a day-to-day basis. If we think about, gelatin, collagen, these are supplements. Great Lakes was essentially like, for the last 50, 60 years, they've been pushing hydrolyzed collagen and gelatin. They just haven't had the marketing that like Vital Proteins has had. So now, he's bringing in how you can get access to gelatin, collagen. He's got Great Lakes, and we're gonna go into what he eats on a normal day.
This is what I eat in a day. The first thing you're gonna notice is my breakfast. Pay attention to the liver and the bone marrow. If you don't get anything else on this plate,
Bone marrow is good on toast.
liver and bone
So
marrow
make some
are really
sourdough bread and
fundamentals.
put some
You're gonna
marrow on your
notice
toast.
that's
It's
gonna be
good.
the biggest impact that you're gonna feel.
Lamb shanks
You're gonna look better,
also has
you're
the
gonna
best
think
bone
better.
marrow. We used to just
second
suck the
thing you're
marrow
gonna
out of
see
the
is my
lamb shank.
concoction, my yogurt and my maple syrup.
Okay, so yogurt and maple syrup. Maple syrup's a very, very highly processed syrup. Highly. Yeah, I think it's like 1/30th. If you have 30 gallons of maple syrup, it's something crazy, like 30 gallons of maple syrup right off the tree, it processes down to 1 gallon. That might be a little high, but it's really, really highly processed. So I think that's the other thing, is establishing, one thing he could do a little bit better, establish what is processed food. Fermentation, kimchi, processed food. I mean, even this is raw cream, right? So raw cream, processed food. It actually is processed because you're removing it from the milk. So we do have to be aware of using that term and just throwing it around blindly.
Gelatin, creatine, duck fat, almond butter.
Gelatin, creatine,
and
duck
there's
fat.
ghee. I'm sure that we'll share a recipe how we make that also. I have a protein shake. It's just 1 scoop of protein, about 32 grams.
That's processed. Whey protein. Whatever the protein is, that powder is going to be processed.
Behind having 6 raw eggs is that it's high in leucine, and those of you that know, leucine is a potent mTOR activator, so it helps to.
Okay, so one thing I'd say with the raw eggs, dude, and I've got videos of like my niece and I and my oldest son doing raw egg yolk shots. I've always liked to cook egg whites and eat the egg yolks raw, okay? I think and again, this goes back to if you're gonna do this raw food, you've gotta make sure you're getting it from a high quality place. We would eat our own eggs from our own chickens, okay? We've got videos of this way back on YouTube, back 2012, 2013. I would separate the egg yolk, okay? Egg whites, I believe, have a trypsin inhibitor, but if you cook it, you can absorb much more of the protein if you actually cook the egg white. So I would just say, I like raw egg yolks, not necessarily raw egg whites.
Muscle and support performance. The second thing that you're gonna see is this delicious meat that's always cooking in my house. I have it here in between meals because it's just the most amazing snack. If you come over to my house, this is always gonna be cooking. It's just gonna be dripping with a perfect marbling of fat. So if you're in my house, you won't be able to avoid not eating this snack. So
I don't know what that meat is. It's like marbling of fat. So liver's super lean, so I'm not really sure what that meat would be. I didn't know our ancestors lived in sick houses like he's got. That house is sweet, dude. That looks nice.
a little snack. So this is the second meal that I have.
Okay, so I'm gonna look at this. He has whey behind him. I can't figure out what kind of whey protein isolate. I don't know what that brand is though. I think that is processed though, just so we're aware.
Lunch. I call this really breaking the fast again after my second workout. Again, you're gonna notice that we have liver.
Breaking the fast again. Dude, these guys are so good at marketing. That's the one thing too, is like with Liver King, I believe, I'm interested to see like over time what his story turns out to be. I think somebody who had a really good, has a very good online business sense, essentially knew who he was, they knew his personality, they knew what he's into. He's bright, he's intelligent, he's jacked, he's got a sweet beard, and they basically probably came to him like, yo, let's roll, let's put a lot of money into crazy ads, let's get shredded, let's do all this stuff, promote your brand and promote who you are, make it barbarian, and figure out some way to make a ton of cash. And I don't know if it's like through his website where you would come to, you join the tribe, and maybe you go meet him, and it's like going to Disneyland as part of like joining the tribe. So you apply here. So it's like now hiring True. Oh, this is for his job. Now hiring for a job there. Okay, so maybe it's like, oh, Ancestral Supplements. So he does have a supplement company. Okay, so maybe that whey protein isolate there in the back is his supplement company. Let's look at this. No, it's not. Okay, so this dude does sell the beef liver. And this is some of the stuff that you can buy. I think they're based out of, if I remember this company, because I also own a supplement company, Earth Fed Muscle. I think this is based out of like Austin, Texas. So if I remember correctly, I'm almost positive. So he does have this. This is where I would say rolling with everything moving forward is now it's all starting to come full circle, and I'm sad that I didn't figure this out before I did this.
Bone marrow. Once again, these are the fundamentals. If you don't eat anything else on this plate, eat that. Same thing, you're gonna have concoction, you're gonna have some yogurt, you're gonna have some maple syrup, another protein shake, and then a pint of raw milk. Fresh.
Okay, so pint of raw milk. That's great, because at Garage Strength, we've been selling raw milk for 12 years. 12 years we've been selling raw milk at the gym. We've been using raw cream. That's great, but again, make sure you're getting it from a certified source. Make sure that your farmer actually knows what they're doing and that it's a they don't have manure all over the place, that they're out on pasture, they're out on grass, they're eating really well, and they're well taken care of. I will say that.
That morning, fresh raw milk.
Squeezed that morning. I highly doubt that raw milk was squeezed that morning that he's getting, because if you get raw milk, which we do, it's usually going to be 2 to 3 days prior to you drinking it. I doubt it was that morning.
And then we have dinner. Dinner is a pound of tartare, just ground ribeye, basically. A bunch of Redmond sea salt, a few cracks of pepper. You can see there's...
Okay, again, we've got tartare there, bone marrow, some raw egg yolks. This is like reminding me of ceviche. This is where I would say ceviche is going to be a little bit less risky of a raw meat, because it like stews in lemon or lime, like a citrus base, so it could fight off some bacteria. I still believe another thing that I want to call out here is our ancestors figured out how to cook food. And our ancestors figured out how to cook food. And when we figured out how to cook food, you could actually digest more nutrients, more vitamins, more minerals. And so everything being raw, like our ancestors figured out what fire could do and how it helped with processing food. And so it's not necessarily accurate that you have to have that all of our ancestors and that we've evolved eating raw meat. Like, we've evolved with fire, and fire was used to cook things.
I really love Mountain Valley spring water. I just drink this water. I drink our well water since we live out in the woods. But you guys, one of my absolute favorite things, we bust out the liver ice cream, usually when we have a barbarian party. Last Saturday, Chris Holt completed Barbarian. In celebration, we busted out the liver ice cream. There's 8 ounces of liver in here. There's colostrum, there's egg yolks, there's maple syrup, there's some coffee grind, and a little bit of 100% cacao chocolate. If you come over here and if you taste this, you're not gonna be able to stop. I'm telling you, it's amazing. Well,
I love ice cream.
This is what I eat today. If you have any questions, let's hear it.
Dude, I love ice cream so much. Yeah. Okay, so now he gets into the workout, and this is where it's like, okay, so I think it's important when we look through it, it's like, what's the goal of the tribe? Dude, look how yoked this dude is. I think that's my problem. Like, he's on sauce, he's on gear. I think I'm also jealous because I've been talking about stuff from like nutrition and physical degeneration for years, and no one ever cared, and I'm sad. I'm sad that no one cared about me. And he's done a good job figuring this stuff out. And he's even over the top here where he lights up Beyond Meat. Like, I get it. Like, I get it's cool to like knock on it, but whatever. Maybe that's part of that fight thing, ripping apart vegans. This is a great promo video. Wait, he's running with a javelin? Stop. That's ridiculous. Okay, so he throws axes for fun. Sledgehammers. I wonder when our early ancestors had sledgehammers and tools and used barbells. Dude, this guy is so jacked. That doesn't look like an ancestral house.
Dinner time, but it is snack time. And while this isn't the most delicious snack, it is a sure as hell nutritious snack. I'm gonna take a huge bite out of these testicles. All I did was remove the membrane here. You can see the other membrane's fully intact. Here we go.
This is where like the over-the-top stuff he does is great for marketing. I don't like that he's looking off to his left. It's like,
not spitting anything out. I'm gonna take another bite. Pull that membrane back.
I'm not spitting anything out. Oh, he's looking away from the camera. He's not comfortable. He's clearly not comfortable eating balls.
Wait for it.
Liver King is not comfortable eating ball sack. That's why he's looking off to the side. So my biggest questions would be, what's the point? What's the goal? I do think it would be cooler if he lived like a pueblo and didn't have electricity, promoted his supplements, along those lines. I also do think, just going back and recognizing that our ancestors had fire. Not everything was eaten raw, Okay, some of the organ stuff was eaten raw because of the sacrifice and because of how they viewed liver, for sure. But I think that we also have to educate everybody on like, yo, make sure you're getting your food from very high quality sources if you're gonna eat raw meat, but not everybody ate raw meat. I also think, you know, along the lines of, I don't know where he lives. I know that I'm pretty sure his supplement line is based out of Texas, so it's not gonna be that warm. I would be interested to see like living off the grid or even like here in Pennsylvania, we burn firewood not year round, but when it's cold, that's how we heat our house here. So it's like actually following through with some of those things. And dude, like specifics like don't disrupt your hormones. Come on, we've got to be realistic here. He's on some type of gas. He's on some type of performance enhancing, and that's part of the marketing. So I think like, dude, the guy's probably a really good guy. He's probably really bright. He's promoting really good sound things. I think there's some things that are lacking in that you could punch holes in his arguments, but like that's the one aspect that bothers me is it's like, let's go on full gas, full steam, full steroids, and then pretend that all that's happening is we're eating bull testicles and we're eating liver and we're actually gonna be fine and we're getting outside and getting sun and stuff like that. I think that does have to be breached and discussed. And I think ultimately we're gonna find out like he's got some company behind him or he's got some marketers behind him that have done a phenomenal job, and that's perfectly fine. So I do think, check out Liver King. He's got a lot of good content, but I also think look through it through the filter of what is he trying to accomplish. We're all trying to accomplish stuff. I'm trying to accomplish things financially for my family, but it's sort of like, don't get pigeonholed, don't get sucked down, join in the tribe and being part of this movement. It just puts off a little bit of a weird feeling, I guess. And so check that out. So if you're struggling with your weight, maybe you're struggling to get healthier and you don't want to eat bull testicles, you don't want to eat raw liver, you don't want to eat raw meat, but you're interested in the wholesome food, you're interested in becoming a healthier version of yourself, click on the link down below, head over to garagestrength.com and you can pick up our high performance nutrition to help you get a little bit healthier and a little bit stronger. Until next time, guys, peace.